So I got a comment from one of my favourite commenters the other day, yesterday, about Sophie, saying, I think she's neurodivergent. Now, I'm not here to talk about Sophie. I'm here to talk about these labels, these disempowering labels that the medical community use. So for me, any label that's new is bullshit. Neurodivergent. I mean, what the fuck is that? It's like an excuse for mental illness, and I don't say this with any judgment. Like, I have all compassion for mental illness, what people are now calling neurodivergent. But if I haven't researched it because it's just bollocks, but if I remember right, it's basically saying that your brain is wired incorrectly. Like, how disempowering is that? You know, like, what the medical community is determined to do is to give everyone a label that completely disempowers them and stops them from transforming. You know, like sayings like a leopard can never change its spots. Like, anyone who has been on this journey of consciousness and transformation will see that people change. People really change. So if you're given a label like, I'm neurodivergent, like, so we live in such a victim culture now. Like, people are so obsessed with being a victim because it gives them an excuse. You know, they can. And you really see it in the LGBT. I mean, you just see it in the left. Like, as a black, lesbian, trans woman, like, as if that gives them some sort of points. You know, some sort of, oh, we better listen to you now, because they know. Even if it's subconscious, they know that no one wants to listen to these people. They know that they have nothing to offer this world. So they have to get all these victim points that give them some sort of status. And sadly, in the society we live in, it does give people status. So yeah, I think neurodivergent is a big one. I remember listening to a video, I can't remember the term, but I was listening to a video a long time ago by this fat, really gay, and I mean like hyper gay man. Who was, you know, who believed that Kamala Harris was the answer. You know, like, yeah, you're like totally in the delusion, totally in, delusion is a good enough word. Who couldn't sleep at night, and he had a term for it. His doctor had told him that he had whatever it was. I can't remember what it's called. So he was like, I have this and I can't sleep. And it's like, no, bro, you can't sleep because you're completely misaligned, because you're completely stressed out, because you eat crap food, because you're not taking care of yourself. That's why you can't sleep. But because the doctor's giving him this term, and no doubt a load of pharmaceuticals with that, he will never do the self-work. He will never turn around. And I mean just for him, like, not on a spiritual or psychological level yet. Just on a very basic level, like eating proper food. Not doom scrolling to blue light late at night, you know. He'll never take those practical steps because he is, whatever the term was, it was some bullshit term that again just doesn't really exist. ADHD, that's another good one. Like, what is ADHD? It's like, it's being sensed. It's you know, it's been tuned into your environment. If you think about it from a tribal point of view, like what we now call ADHD, that would have been the hunter. You know, highly attuned, highly switched on, highly alive. And what do we do now? Well, we tell kids that they need to sit behind it. Like, young boys should never be sat at a desk. They should be playing, they should be experiencing. But no, we want to brainwash them all and chop them off from any connection or authenticity that they have. So we sit them at a desk. And if they can't do that, we say they have ADHD. And we give them a load of drugs. When I was in school, there was one lad in my year group that was on Ritalin. And he was bouncing off the walls. Now, I met him recently, and he's gone on to be like a very successful businessman, really engaging chap. He hasn't gone on the spiritual journey, like he's a bit manic. But, you know, just so much fun. And very vulnerable in the way he speaks, you know, like very open, like a great guy. He's turned into a fantastic man. And I was probably next on the list in our year group for getting poisoned. You know what I'm talking about. But you know, luckily in my time, so I'm 40 this week. The poison hadn't really come in the numbing down of senses hadn't really come in through pharmaceuticals. So, I mean, there's no doubt that I would have been on it. Like, because if you look at classes now, it's like, I don't know, I'm plucking these numbers out of the sky, but you know, a high percent, I'm not even going to say any numbers because I don't know them, a high percentage of particularly boys are on some sort of pharmaceutical because they have X, Y, and Z. The only one I have any time for is autism. And if you look at the time that jabs were introduced early in childhood, I mean, I googled it the other day, I can't remember the numbers, but an infant by the age of 2 in the USA, I think they've had something like 50 jabs. I mean, it's just incredible. And if you look at the correlation in graphs between autism and when we started giving jabs to youngsters, I mean, it's literally like this. So I think that one's real. But I don't think any of the others, like, don't let them give you these disempowering labels. Don't believe these disempowering labels. Stop being a victim. Stop. And I say this with great compassion. I understand why people are addicted to being a victim. I did it for many, many, many years in a slightly different way. Yeah, the powers that shouldn't be are so clever. Like, they've done such a good job of disempowering us all and deluding us all. And a really big one is through all these medical terms. So yeah, if you're believing, fibromyalgia, that's a great one. That's a great one. So that's basically when they can't diagnose a problem. So if you go into the doctor and complain about fatigue, I think is the main one, but anything really. But particularly if you're feeling exhausted, you know, if you're feeling exhausted, you have adrenal burnout. You know, you're living in a society that makes no sense, that is very fast paced and is a complete lie. And therefore you have burnt out, adrenal burnout, which they can't diagnose, so they tell you have fibromyalgia, which I think like the actual definition of it is like, you know, not the definition, but they openly admit that that it's when they can't diagnose something. So rather than just saying we can't diagnose something, you're just a bit of a retard, they say, oh, you have fibromyalgia, here's some drugs. Yeah. Oh, I've got fibromyalgia, that's me done for the rest of my life. You know, do you see how ridiculous it is? Do you see how disempowering it is? Do you see how clever it is? You know, from a point of view of completely disconnecting you from all authenticity, source and truth. Be interested to know what you think in the comments on this one. You know, so to go back to the Sophie situation, she's just unable to self-observe. You know, she's completely addicted to being a victim. She's completely addicted to being disempowered. She can't take any responsibility. Therefore, she just lives in complete projection. You know, that's not neurodivergent. That's just not being able to self-observe, not being ready to do the work. You know, that's all it is. Alright, big love. Please like, please hype, please comment, please consider donating. It's really important to me that the reason I'm so obsessed with creating abundance in my life is I have to be able to feed myself in order to feed you guys. Like, silence is so important to me. So if I'm staying in shitty, cheap hotels, I don't get any silence. Yeah, it's not from a material point of view. It's not from a desire to be rich. It's from a desire to be able to feed myself so I can feed you. So if anyone wants to help me to do that, then you'll find all my donation links in the bio below. Or you can book in for a one-on-one session if you feel I can help you, £50 for an hour. And usually I go on for an hour and a half. So yeah, please support me in supporting you. Big love. I love you.